And if it's like I know it's my last year, but it's not gonna treat it differently than the years prior, just because it's my last year. I still want to give everything that I have, like I have in the past.
Hey guys, this is Pedro back with another interview covering VCT Americas KICKOFF 2025. For this occasion, I'm here accompanied by FNS of NRG, finessing their way to a victory over 100 Thieves in said competition, moving on in the next round of said lower bracket. So, Finesse, thank you so much for giving me a chance to do this interview, especially after a result like this, coming out victorious over 100 Thieves. First and foremost, gotta give you the obvious opener. How are you feeling?
Feels good, man. Feels to get good to get our first win of the season. It's pretty huge, even if like how well you do in the off season. Obviously, we did pretty great in the off season. It's still it's a reset when you start in a new year and you play in the actual regular season, and there's no more off season. It's a basically a whole reset. So we needed to get our first win as soon as possible. I'm glad it was against a really tough opponent in 100 Thieves as well.
Definitely good to hear this change in from that first match against Cloud9 coming out of it on a losing fare to today, coming out victorious, as I said. What do you think sparked the change from the first match up until today? And what do you think just kind of made it happen for you guys to come out victorious over a pretty tough 100 Thieves squad?
We made good adjustments in terms of our role switches. Verno is more of our sentinel now. I'm more of our initiator, which allows me personally to have a lot more say in the round and how we're going to play the round. And obviously, me being the pack player now and Verno being kind of on his own, he's a much better anchor than me, and I think we realized that. And my strengths are my calling, and I'm best able to do that when I'm at the pack. So that was a really good adjustment that we made, like post the Cloud9 game. And then outside of that, we made some comp changes that took a little bit to dry run and kind of get up to speed with and get a couple of scrims in just to see how it was. And we were confident, like very confident in them. So we stuck to the new comp changes, and thankfully they paid off.
I think the first most interesting part regarding what you just said now about the comp changes is buying, or more so specifically map one in Lotus. I mean, obviously it came out on a losing affair, continuing the, or more so building the 0-2 record, I believe, for this year, for NRG in that specific map. But nevertheless, a vast improvement, as you said. Today, what do you think are some takeaways in just having to use that new comp on Lotus and having to play against 100 Thieves?
I mean, it's just nice to, be validated with the win. Having things that we practiced like this last couple days work out in the match, and thankfully for us, we didn't. A lot of our information that we had on them was correct as well because they didn't change too many things. I think the only thing they really changed, as far as I remember, was adding Vise instead of Killjoy on Pearl. Outside of that, there was not much else, and so there wasn't much to catch us off guard. But I think I'm not 100% sure, but maybe our comps caught him off guard, so that was great. But in general, I think the biggest switch that we made was me going to initiator role and Verno going into a sentinel role. I think it just makes sense for our team and our roles and our players. I think it's the perfect change to make, and I'm glad that we had the balls to make it. So like like midway basically into the tournament.
So basically, this is going to be the new roles going forward, right? You being initiator and Verno going
I
into
mean, I
Sentinel.
don't know 100% because it's obviously map dependent. There are some maps where I do like playing Sentinel, for example, but in general, I think at least for the maps we played today, it just made way more sense to have Verno on a Sentinel role and me on an Initiator role. So we'll kind of look back at it and see what worked out because obviously we have to rewatch the game to see everything. But overall, comfort wise, I think in terms of just pure comfort, it just makes 100% way more sense to stick with these role changes, excuse me, as of right now. And then, going forward, kind of, match by match, kind of see what's going on. Because the good thing about this team is there's so many players that are capable of playing so many different roles that we're able to make those kinds of switches confidently, even if it's mid tournament. So I'm glad this one worked out for us, but we'll see what happens in the next match.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely looking forward to seeing what NRG does in your next match, which will co-op against crew, but more so just now focusing onto yourself, Finesse, real quick. Obviously, this is a vastly different team compared to the other ones that you've been a part of throughout your career in this game. I mean, you got to go back all the way to like end of 2020 to have a different set of teammates that are not like the NV slash Optic slash early NRG core. I mean, a
Yeah.
vast difference, a vastly long time just having to put that into consideration. So what I want to ask you, Finesse, is sort of how have you viewed this version of the team having to adjust, form it, play with them, basically see the progression. Um, from the time it was formed up until now, and also how do you kind of contrast that to like said core, said old core.
Um, I mean, it's nice to play with new players, just period. Just because, like you said yourself, I've only ever played with the same players for like the last 3+ years. So it's nice to, I think it's the same for all the other players on that core as well. For Crashies right now on Fnatic, I'm sure it's a similar feeling where you just kind of get a new breath of fresh air, feeling like you want to play with new people, get a new perspective on the game and stuff like that. And every single player on this team, even the quote unquote inexperienced players on my team, they still teach me a lot. And I think um, that's a very important thing in this game in general. Is like I still want to be an end game leader that learns from every single player on my team, and I think every single player on my team right now is very um like high IQ in the game and have a lot of good ideas. And when we're able to actually mesh and use those ideas and make strats around those ideas, even if there's some like small things, it makes such a big difference on certain rounds. And I'm glad that with this team, it's not very different, but I guess the biggest difference, if you were to ask me to contrast between the two, um, on the NRG team, we were like, it was a lot of myself and Chet doing a lot of the strategy work. I think on this team, it feels like everyone gives input at an equal level. And if someone doesn't like something, they'll straight up like give arguments as to why it's not good, and we're able to have like discussions about it. Whereas before it was just like me and Chet made the decisions, and then it was like sometimes there would be like back and forth, but we wouldn't have like as many discussions on that team as opposed to this team. Not to say that the old players were like less IQ or anything. I think it was just more they had a lot more faith in my calling and my ideas and didn't want to overstep, I guess, along with Chet. But yeah, so they let like myself and Chet do a lot of it. So with this team, it's a lot different. I think everyone's very confident in how they think about the game and want their ideas heard. And yeah, I would say that's the biggest difference between the two teams. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun playing with new teammates, inexperienced players who are also like as good as Verno and Mata are. Obviously, I love playing with Sam. I love playing with Ethan, so I'm glad I'm playing with them as well. And then Bonkar adds a completely different element in terms of coaching, just personality wise. So yeah, it's been good so far. It's nice to learn from new people.
No, for sure, definitely appreciate the insight on that regard. I think like whenever when I listen to you talk about like that contrast, and you were mentioning like that your old teammates, I kind of have that one tweet mentioning like it was like a quote tweet of like Crashy's doing a little TikTok video with Bosa and him dancing. He goes, that frankly, would not expect for him to do anything like that. And then the caption of that would be like, huh. So this is what it's like whenever you're not like when you don't have FNS like a teammate
Yeah,
like that. I guess like in that regard, I mean it makes sense. Just sort of like them having different paths and just having to like
yeah.
enjoy different people and stuff
Everyone
like that.
has different. Yeah, everybody has different. Like, it's nice seeing Crashies come out of his shell on this team, as opposed to our team and stuff. It's like it's just cool to see people grow, and I think that's what it is. You're always growing. I'm 32. I'm still growing as a like mentally and in this game and learning new things, and I think it's the same for Crashies. Um, and whoever else, like Ye, for example, is on EG. I'm sure he has a different atmosphere than he did on our team. So, yeah, it's just awesome to see like my ex teammates also like grow and change and do great things.
Oh, for sure, and obviously the same could be said for you, FNS, having to go from like the end of the 2024 season, pretty disappointing one at that, and then moving on over to this point in which obviously starting off, not crashing out at the very like first hurdle, obviously a good improvement from that. But still, like I kind of want to ask about you yourself, and then moving over to the discussion over to you. Obviously you mentioned in the off season and even like before the start of this competition about like retiring and that this being like your last year. I mean, does it feel like for you like this is like the last dance for you, like this year?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, but I don't see it as like some sad, like I need to prove something or, that's, I think it's other people making that narrative. For me, it's just another year. And if it's like, I know it's my last year, but it's not going to treat it differently than the years prior just because it's my last year. I still want to give everything that I have, like I have in the past. My mentality really hasn't changed much in terms of what I expect from myself, my teammates. Um, in terms of what I want my results to be, it's always going to be the same. I have the same goals I've had every other year. That will never change. But yeah, I mean, the only real difference is I'm convinced, I'm 100% sure this is my last year just because, I mean, plenty of reasons, but like the TLDR of it is I'm happy with where what I've done in the game, and I'm happy with where I have landed. And I've, I'm proud of myself for making a concrete decision, you know? So, yeah.
Think like you basically looked at your line of work. You've been a world champion. You've appeared in various international lands. I mean, even looking at over your time in Counter Strike, you've appeared in the majors. You appeared in a major playoffs, and you basically been at the top of your game in your role. Because not many people have been able to play so well while also being the IGL for a very long time. So definitely good on that. I mean, does it give you like sure like you say that you're gonna treat this as every other year, but more so like still like the does it add do you feel it adds like I don't want to say I don't want to say pressure, but more so do you feel like it amplifies what you have to do going forward, in order to not have the same kind of result at the end of 2024?
In a sense that you learn from prior years what you know doesn't work, you don't want to make those same mistakes. That's about it. I just want to make sure I avoid and my teammates avoid making mistakes that I've made in previous years. Uh, just little things like, whatever those mistakes might be, like just going through that and kind of reflecting on it and saying like, oh, these are things we want to improve on. But like you said previously, it's like it's a new team environment, and I enjoy playing with this team. It's been a pleasure so far. I enjoy like the conversations that we have. We're all good friends. So, um, in general, there's no anxiety or pressure. Truly, I, I I I don't think I've felt that. It's literally just like every other year in the sense, in the working sense for me. I'm just doing everything that I can to make sure that I am mentally prepared to play, and I think that same goes for the rest of my teammates. And it's my job to facilitate how well we play. And so if I'm at the top of my game when it comes to that, then we'll do well. That being said, the fact that it's my last year doesn't change any of the work. I guess any of this, I guess it doesn't change my process of how I look at the game.
Okay. Well, at the very least, you made the right step or step in the right direction, coming out of this victorious over 100 team. Now moving on over to the next round in the lower bracket. I wish I could talk to you more, Finesse, but I'm getting those pings to wrap up, so I'm gonna do exactly that. Finesse, thank you so much for another interview, and hopefully I could talk to you again sometime in the future.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.